The Winter Rose by Everett Cole. The first snow of the season was falling gently over the quiet New England town of Hartford, its flakes dancing lazily in the breeze before settling on rooftops, trees, and the cobbled streets below. The year was 1865, and the festive spirit was already in the air. Storefronts displayed evergreen wreaths, windows were adorned with holly, and the smell of roasted chestnuts wafted from street vendors. Inside a cozy little shop on Elm Street, Mary Whitfield carefully arranged delicate glass ornaments on the wooden counter. She was the owner of Whitfield's General Store, a humble business she had taken over after her father's passing. Christmas was the busiest time of the year, and though the work was demanding, she found joy in seeing the smiles of customers as they prepared for the holiday. Mary was not a woman prone to fanciful daydreams, yet there was a longing in her heart that she could not quite shake, a desire for something more than the predictable rhythm of her days. The doorbell chimed, interrupting her thoughts. She looked up and saw a man entering the store, his coat dusted with snow. He was tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at the nape of his neck, and a confident yet unassuming presence. She recognized him immediately. Henry Carter, the blacksmith's son. They had known each other since childhood, though he had been away for the past few years. Mary felt a flutter in her chest, but quickly busied herself with rearranging the ornaments. "Good afternoon, Miss Whitfield," Henry said, his voice warm and friendly as he removed his gloves. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Mary smiled, though her heart pounded a little faster. "Not at all, Mr. Carter. What can I help you with?" "I'm looking for a Christmas gift," he said, glancing around the store. "Something special, but I'm not quite sure what yet." "For anyone in particular?" Mary asked, keeping her tone casual, though she could not help but wonder if he was seeing someone. "For my mother," he replied, then hesitated. "And for someone else, perhaps." Mary's cheeks flushed. "Well, we have some lovely scarves and handkerchiefs, or maybe a fine pocket watch, though I suppose a blacksmith has little need for one of those." Henry chuckled. "You'd be surprised how much time I spend trying to keep track of hours. But I was thinking of something different, something she might not expect." Mary considered this for a moment. "We just received a shipment of glass ornaments from Europe. They're beautifully made, and no two are alike. Your mother might appreciate something so delicate." Henry's eyes brightened as he inspected the delicate baubles, admiring the intricate patterns and colors that sparkled even in the dim winter light. "They are exquisite. I'll take one of these," he said, picking up a small ornament shaped like a rose. "And I'll take another for myself." "For yourself?" Mary teased, raising an eyebrow. "Well, perhaps not just for myself," he said, a playful glint in his eye. "But I've decided to keep my other plans a secret for now." Mary's curiosity was piqued, but she did not press further. As she carefully wrapped the ornaments in tissue paper, she felt a strange sense of anticipation. The winter wind howled outside, yet inside the store, there was a warm, comfortable silence. The next morning, Mary awoke to a world transformed by snow. The town square looked like a scene from a Christmas card, the white drifts piling high against fences and lampposts. She bundled up in her heaviest coat and made her way to the store, the cold biting at her cheeks. The streets were busier than usual, with townsfolk hurrying about, eager to finish their holiday shopping before the storm grew worse. To her surprise, Henry was already there, standing outside the store, his breath visible in the icy air. "Good morning, Miss Whitfield," he said, flashing a smile. "I thought I might offer my services to shovel the snow off your steps. Looks like you could use a bit of help." Mary hesitated, not because she didn't want the help, but because she wasn't sure how to respond. It had been so long since anyone had offered to do something kind for her. "That's very kind of you, Mr. Carter, but you needn't trouble yourself." "Nonsense," he said, already picking up a shovel. "Consider it a small token of my appreciation for those lovely ornaments." Mary watched him work, his movements swift and sure, the snow piling up neatly to the side. There was something reassuring about his presence, as if the cold didn't bother him, and his quiet strength was enough to push back the winter chill. She opened the door to let him in once he finished, and the warmth of the store enveloped them both. "Thank you, Henry," she said, this time letting his name roll off her tongue a little more naturally. "I've got some hot cider brewing, if you'd like to warm up before you head back out." "I'd like that very much," he said, his smile softening as he stepped inside. Days passed, and Henry's visits to the store became more frequent. At first, he always had a plausible reason to check on an order, to pick up a small item, or simply to inquire if there were any last-minute requests for his blacksmithing services. But as Christmas drew closer, it became clear to Mary that he was making excuses just to see her. It was a realization that both thrilled and terrified her. She had always been self-sufficient, accustomed to standing on her own, and the idea of someone like Henry taking an interest in her was both a delight and a mystery. One evening, as she was closing up the store, she noticed Henry lingering outside, his hands stuffed in his coat pockets. "Mary," he said, as she locked the door, "would you care to take a walk with me?" Mary hesitated, but only for a moment. The town was safe, and the snow had stopped, leaving the night clear and crisp. "I'd like that," she said, slipping her arm through his as they strolled down the empty street. The moon cast a silver glow on the snow-covered ground, and their footsteps crunched softly as they walked. For a while, neither of them spoke, content to enjoy the silence of the winter night. But there was a question on Mary's mind, one she couldn't hold back any longer. "Henry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "why did you come back to Hartford?" He glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "My father needed help with the shop, but that wasn't the only reason. I missed it here. I missed everything. The familiar streets, the people I've known all my life. And I realized that what I was looking for wasn't out there, but right here." He paused, his eyes meeting hers, and there was a sincerity in his gaze that made her heart skip a beat. "I missed you, Mary." Mary felt a rush of warmth, despite the cold. "I missed you too," she admitted, surprised at how easy it was to say the words once they were out. "I think I always wondered if you would come back, but I never dared to hope." Henry stopped walking and turned to face her, his breath visible in the night air. "I'm glad you hoped. Because I have a confession to make, and I'd rather be honest than leave it unsaid." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the glass rose ornament he had purchased days ago. "I bought this, not just because it was beautiful, but because it reminded me of you. Fragile but strong, delicate yet enduring, like you." Mary's eyes glistened with emotion as she took the ornament from his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "Henry, I don't know what to say." "Say that you'll allow me to spend more time with you," he said softly. "Not just as a customer, but as a friend. And perhaps, one day, something more." Mary's heart swelled, and she felt a joy she hadn't known she was capable of feeling. She smiled, and it was a smile that seemed to melt away all the cold, all the uncertainty. "I'd like that very much," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Merry Christmas, Henry." "Merry Christmas, Mary," he replied, leaning down to kiss her gently on the forehead, a promise of warmth and love that would carry them through the long winter nights to come.